Om Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanukampa Dhritavigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamityam Tang Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namama Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagatgurum Padapadme Tayo Sritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu Namasri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Surai Satchid Sukhaswarupaya Swami Tapaharini. So today we are going to start the new chapter of Karma Yoga. Swami Vivekananda's Karma Yoga constitutes of 8 chapters. So we are now going to start the 7th chapter. So we are almost on the end of Swami Vivekananda's Karma Yoga. The 7th chapter, the title of the chapter is Freedom. So first let us start reading with the text and then gradually we will enter into the discussion. Freedom. In addition to meaning work, we have stated that psychologically the word karma also implies causation. Any work, any action, any thought that produces an effect is called a karma. Thus, the law of karma means the law of causation, of inevitable cause and sequence. Wheresoever there is a cause, there an effect must be produced. This necessity cannot be resisted, and this law of karma, according to our philosophy, is true throughout the whole universe. Whatever we see or feel or do, whatever action there is anywhere in the universe, while being the effect of past work on the one hand, becomes on the other the cause in its turn and produces its own effect. So this is the basic theory of karma. That when the absolute reality is beyond the cause and effect, but when it finds expression as this phenomenal universe, it is bound by the laws. Om, the ultimate reality, finds expression in this universe as Rim, the Shakti, the energy. The universe is nothing but the manifestation of Shakti, of energy. Anything you see, whether it's matter or the physical laws, it's at last it can deduct it to be energy and energy alone. So this entire universe is the expression in the form of energy of that absolute reality, which is Sat Swarupa, the conscious principle. The non-dual conscious principle appears as this Shakti, Rim. And that Rim again is not chaotic. It finds expression as the invariable laws, as rhythm. The law speaks of rhythm. So that's the word rhythm in Sanskrit is similar to this rhythm. The rhythm explains the rhythm behind the universe. It's not only in the physical laws that if you throw a ball up, the throwing of the ball is the cause, or the gravitation is the cause. You know that it is bound to fall. If you throw the ball up, gravitation being the cause there as the eternal principle, the ball is again going to come down because of the gravitational force. There cannot be any other result. It doesn't depend on what I believe or not. It doesn't depend on any doctrines or dogmas, on my beliefs. It doesn't depend. It is there as the eternal law. The same thing is with the moral laws. In all the religion, we speak of the perennial values, the vidhis, the nishedhas, they are there. Once the universe finds expression as the energy, that energy is bound by those laws, which in turn speaks of the cause and effect. We can never go beyond it. The example, there are many, this innumerable example we in our life, everywhere we can find, just in India at present. When we found that that the main dictum for the COVID was in Australia sitting here, what? That it is not that you will get infected. The thing which I liked here very much, they never stressed that point, that don't be irresponsible so that the others get infected. What a wonderful idea. And in India, we find that was the utter callousness, where none were aware of their own responsibility, none the responsibility they have for the society. And just see what we are going through. Then this cause and effect is bound to be there. We never take the responsibility on our own shoulders. That's the biggest problem. All the conspiracy theories comes because we don't take the responsibility on our own shoulders. From there, the conspiracy theories come. What were we doing without it? We acted so irresponsibly. We cannot deny that. As we see the picture, it's not that not the responsibility of my own self, of the country, and from the country of the entire world. The entire world is now terrified that no one should come out of India. And we are shouting that why should it be so? We forgot that we never took care of our basic responsibility. In this world, even for children, up to the age 18, they are supposed to be under the parents because they don't have to have developed the sense of responsibility. And as a nation, if we are behaving as a child, and then we shout that we have to be treated as with full freedom. How can it be? Just the way I cannot think of full freedom of a child. They have to be under the surveillance of the parents. If a nation behaves that way, that's what's happened at last. So the cause and effect is always there. We cannot deny it. And when we deny it, that at last finds expression as all this conspiracy theories, as always that we try to put the responsibility on other shoulders. But at last, all those are mere words. Those are mere babblings. At last, the responsibility is on our shoulder. We have to be aware of the fact cause and effect is there working. And for that, I cannot break the law with my irresponsibility. I have to be a responsible person so that the cause and effect which is bound to happen doesn't happen it in an adverse way. And that's the entire karmavada that's been spoken of, where the responsibility is not for my own self. I have the responsibility for the entire society, for the entire globe, for the entire world. So there, I think that this, if it has tried to interpret with the present consequences, we will find the theory of karmavada comes out in a wonderful way. In India, we always, in that matter, is quite selfish. We think that my karma is going to yield my result. We forget one thing, that there is something called collective karma. It is not that karmavada means my karma is going to, I am not bothered about the society. I just, that have built up my career, and so I am going to build and yield the result of it. How can it be? As a society, if we are not growing, then again we have to face the consequences of all karma. Even yesterday, I was just having some conversation with someone that in India, that at present, that why the with the multinationals coming in, where you get the same salary sitting in India and even in the foreign countries, still the trend is go to the foreign countries. Why? Because as a collective society, again, there is a big failure. Why? That with the salary, what will I do? If you don't have proper medical infrastructure, if you don't have proper educational infrastructure, with that money, and when I am just going to be having my own family, where my child will have education, where will I have my medical facilities, with what will I do with the money? So it becomes a collective responsibility for the entire society to really build up. When the Australia we find is sitting here, they are opening their just what you say, their boundaries for the immigrants to come in. First, they have prepared a wonderful infrastructure where you can have your job. And yes, there are many controversies over it. It will be there. But the basic thing is that they have created. So, and then the collective karma is taking its effect. What we find that as per a nation, how nicely it is prospering. It is considered as a lucky country because it has really worked for it. Luck is not something that it happens by chance. You will find your paradigm. It's not only your endeavor, your paradigm, your orientation. All those things has the result as karma. And that's the thing which we are speaking here as karmavad. Each and every effect is bound to have its own result. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say very nicely, that you can never transgress these eternal laws. When someone asked Ramakrishna, is there something called eternal laws? Because in those days, in the presence of Ramakrishna, the young Bengal was coming, who were already educated in the Western education, where they found that the thing which was predominant in that education system was all these so-called doctrines, dogmas, and these ideologies are relative. It has nothing, no as such absolute truth. They are not the absolute truth. They're relative truths. Because constantly you will find there is a modification of the ideas. That one idea is developed and then suddenly someone comes and develops over it, finds there's some defects on the previous idea, and that it's constantly modifying. So the question comes, is there something called universal laws? Is there something called these eternal values? And Sri Ramakrishna's answer was very simple. He told, yes, there is. And what is his answer? His answer may appear to be queer. His simple answers are so simple, sometimes we miss the point. He simply told, Lonka khele jhal lagbe. If you take a chili, you're bound to have that hot sensation. That much only he told. What it means, that as a human being, we are a responsible being. We have the ability to respond to the situation. We are not just simply bound by the stimuli response conditioning. We can choose our response and act in a responsible way. Responsibility is responsibility. So we have a choice. And the question of the choice is very important in each and every step of our life. And that's what Sri Ramakrishna is saying, that while taking food in a separate plate, some chilies have been kept. Now you want the flavor of the chili, but you don't want that hotness. Is it possible? If you take the chili along with the flavor, you're bound to have that hot sensation. If you don't take the chili, well and good. But if I take the chili, I shouldn't have that hot sensation, only the flavor I want to enjoy. It's not going to happen. So if I take the chili, the result is fixed. Whether I take the chili or not, the choice is there. But once I have chosen, there is no way out. I have to have the result which is fixed for that. And that is what is spoken of as karmavad. Each and every karma has its own effect. That's why Swami Vivekananda used to say very nicely that truth never pays homage to the society. In some of the lecture he's saying, truth never pays homage to the society. It is the society which has to pay homage to the truth, or else it will be annihilated. It dies. Simply, it will have to die. So a few years back, I was reading a very nice story that an American warship was just sailing on the sea. And because of this, what you say, there's a lot of in the morning, the sky was cloudy. It was very cloudy and nothing was visible. So the rudder system had to be on. And the commander of the ship, he just told on the rudder system, and the one who was operating the rudder system, because of the mist everywhere, nothing was visible, he could just sense, the rudder system sense that there is something in its vicinity, in its front, in its way of this motion. When the route in which it was sailing, on that there is something obstructing. So the warship thought that it must be some small fishing boat, some sailing boat, some small fishing boat. So it told that most probably the boat is also not seeing us because of the mist. So the commander told, ask him to just turn by 15 degrees, just deviate its course by 15 degrees. So it instructed, just whoever it may be, please deviate your way by 15 degrees. The reply came, sir, it's better you deviate your way by 15 degrees. So now the commander of the warship thought, as he's not seeing us, that's why he's just talking that way. He's just instructing us in back. He told us, still, it is the warship. It is you who have to deviate. We are the warship who are coming. You are a small boat, so you just take the deviation. So when it was told that we are the warship, it is you who took the deviation. So still he insisted, sir, it is you who please take the deviation. He told, I'm the commander of the warship. It is I'm commanding you. He told, I'm an ordinary person. I do a very small job. I am requesting you, sir, it is you who have to deviate. And when again it was told that it is a warship, and now this person told, sir, I am sitting on this, what you say, by the side, I'm just exactly forgetting the term, by the side from where you can just have to observe the ocean. The light is there. When on the side of the ocean, that high tower where the light is there, so that from distance it can be visible that what you say, that the shore is near. The ship shouldn't come near. So you know that watchtower is there from where if the ship comes near, because the ocean becomes shallow, the ship will get drowned. So he was telling that I was sitting on this watchtower, which cannot move. So now he understood. So now it is the warship which has to take the deviation. So the truth is like that watchtower. It is like that watchtower. It will never be deviating. It is we who have to adjust our life as per that truth. Otherwise, it is we who are going to break. The laws, if it is the law, is something which never can be broken. In our attempt to break laws, it is we who break ourselves. That's the example which we give again and again. If someone says, I don't believe in gravitation, and jumps out of a 20-story building, he's not going to just fly. He's just going to crash and die. So that's the thing which is being indicated by the Karmavada. So the next, it is what is being mentioned. It is necessary together with this to consider what is meant by the word law. By law is meant the tendency of a series to repeat itself. When we see one event followed by another, or sometimes happening simultaneously with another, we expect this sequence or coexistence to recur. Our old logicians and philosophers of the Nyaya school calls this law by the name of Vyapti. So now he is going to our philosophical ideas. The idea of Vyapti. Vyapti actually means to encompass. The effect, the cause is encompassing the effect everywhere. So when you see all lots of pots made of clay, so it is a clay which is encompassing all the pots. So the Vyapti of the cause is in the effect. So that's what he's saying. And it happens with a sequence, with a series of happenings that the cause at last finds expression as the effect. So when there is smoke, we most probably, sometimes when there is the forest fire, the bush fire in the mountains, the fire is most probably not visible. I can just see the smoke in the sky. From that, I can infer, though the smoke is not visible, that there must be a smoke, from which this Vyapti, from which this smoke is coming out. So seeing the smoke, I infer about the existence of the bushfire. So this is the cause and effect which has been spoken of as Vyapti. The cause encompasses the effect. According to them, All our ideas of law are due to association. A series of phenomena becomes associated with things in our mind in a sort of invariable order, so that whatever we perceive at any time is immediately referred to other facts in the mind. Any one idea, or according to our psychology, any one wave that is produced in the mind stuff, the chitta, must always give rise to many similar waves. So when I see the smoke, immediately, I don't see the fire. The smoke is giving rise to the wave of thoughts, which is taking me to infer about the fire. So this is the thing which has been spoken of, that the cause results in the effect. And how do I infer the cause? Just the way my chitta creates the similar, this mental thought processes. The smoke, through the thought processes, infers about the fire. So that's what is being indicated by this sentence where Swami is saying, any one idea, according to our psychology, any one wave that is produced in the mind stuff, the chitta, must always give rise to many similar waves to enable you to go to the cause. So this is the psychological idea of association and causation, is only an aspect of this grand pervasive principle of association. So here also Swamiji is using the word pervasive, that the cause pervades the effect. So this is the pervasive principle of association. This pervasiveness of association is what is called in Sanskrit vyapti. In the external world, the idea of law is the same as in the internal. The expectation that a particular phenomenon will be followed by another, and that the series will repeat itself. Really speaking, therefore, law does not exist in nature. Practically, it is an error to say that gravitation exists in the earth, or that there is any law existing objectively anywhere in nature. This is a very interesting point Swamiji is now coming to. That law is there, we cannot break the law, but that law is not something outside. It is the way we interpret the universe. It is not something, we will come to an example to understand. These are the psychological ideas. Sometimes it's a bit difficult to understand, but it becomes to a certain extent quite clear when we resort to some examples. We will come to the example. First, let us read out the text, and then we will go to the example to clarify the idea behind it. Law is the method, the manner in which our mind grasps a series of phenomena. It is all in the mind. It is not waiting there outside. It is all in the mind. Certain phenomena happening one after another or together, and followed by the conviction of the regularity of their recurrence, thus enabling our minds to grasp the method of the whole series, constitute what we call law. What it is saying, in the nature, what is happening is just happening in mere sequence. It is not that they are following the law. Why that sequence is happening, that also we'll try to understand. First, let us understand it is happening in certain sequence. Something is there. When we try to map it with our mind never sees the reality. Our mind is always mapping the reality. What I see is not the reality. It is just a map of reality. And from that map, all the laws come. So now let us try to understand with an example. This example in some other classes, in some other context we have used. We will use it for this particular idea to understand this particular idea. We will use that same analogy. That suppose I go out to the Melbourne city to have an idea of the network of roads. I come back and then I start drawing a map of the network of roads. So I went through a freeway. There were so many roads merging and there were so many exits. So while drawing, what I do, I draw the freeway in green color, all the merging roads in red color, and all the exits in blue color. That is just for my convenience. I have drawn all those things. Does the real red colored road, green colored road, blue colored road exist in the city? When you go out, there's no such road. For my convenience, to just differentiate the freeway from the merging roads and the exit, I have drawn it with different colors. A small child sees the map, and when I ask what it is, I say this is the road, network of roads of the Melbourne city. And then the child moves out in search of the red color, blue color, and the green color roads. Will he ever find it? No. So now we will understand what our mind is doing. It is the universe just is. Our mind is giving the color, the smell, the touch, the sight, all the five senses. It is the mind which is giving it. And from that we are conceptualizing the various laws. It is for our convenience. That's what in our scripture they speak, that the truth find expression in two ways. Shankaracharya in his commentary saying again and again. One is this absolute truth, Atyantika Satya, and another is the Vyavaharika Satya, is just the truth for our day-to-day activities. It is not that absolute truth. So these are the truth types. So the absolute truth are the road. But for our convenience, we have created that map, and it works quite well. That's what even in the modern science, when we find that the Newtonian laws are not applicable in the quantum level, but we find they are both working wonderfully. When we come to the macro level, the Newtonian laws are working wonderfully, but it cannot be explained when I go to this micro level, to this quantum mechanics. But these are the things which actually is finding expression. Actually, the macro reality, the macro, this world, the world which we see, is also the map of that quantum level. In the map, it is all these colors, everything are coming. But that is the thing which we have mapped with our mind. The thing which is not perceptible is the quantum world. That is finding expression as this map. So now you will find that to a certain extent, this idea will get clear, that the laws as such don't exist. We will come to some other examples also. Swamiji will be, just as we go to the Swamiji's walks, to understand this idea more clearly, we'll come to some other examples also. Because you will find that in all the Karma Yoga lectures, Swamiji, what starts with a very abstract idea, and then he tries to bring it down to our day-to-day life. So here also he's doing the same thing. He's going to a very, very abstract idea. Sometimes it becomes very difficult to understand. But yes, from there, just to make a sense that whatever ideas we are trying to practice in our day-to-day life has something to do with these abstract principles. It's not something, a cut-off principle, that these principles are something which are just for our fancy, for fancying our mind with our mind, and it has nothing to do with our day-to-day activity. That sometimes we feel that way. Just to get rid of that misconception, Swamiji is first taking those abstract ideas. From that, he's deducing all these day-to-day activities, how it can be related to that he's deducing. So that's why here also he's taking a very, very abstract, this ideology at the beginning, and gradually he will reduce it down to relate it to the Karma Yoga, the ideal of Karma Yoga, which he is dealing with in the entire series of these lectures. So now again, we read the Swamiji's text, and before we proceed to the next text, so that whatever we discuss, that makes a sense, that law is the method, the manner in which our mind grasps a series of phenomena. It is all in the mind. Certain phenomena happening one after another or together, and followed by the conviction of the regularity of their recurrence, thus enabling our mind to grasp the method of the whole series, constitute what we call law. So next, what Swamiji is saying, the next question for consideration is what we mean by law being universal. So we say that laws are universal, and that the idea from our discussion came as if when the universe is finding expression as this phenomenal existence, it is, the law is something inherent there. But Swamiji has already indicated actually it is the way we interpret the so-called phenomenal existence. So now he will say that how it has that universality. If we are interpreting, then again the question of choice comes. I can interpret in my way, you can interpret in your way. Why? How come we all are interpreting it in the same way? How come we all have a consensus reality? That my reality, I consent with yours. If there's a question of interpretation, we could have done it in a various way. So now the question of universality comes. That now Swamiji will be dealing with. Our universe is that portion of existence which is characterized by what the Sanskrit psychologists call Desha Kala Nimitta, or what is known to European psychology as space, time, and causation. So this universe is only a part of infinite existence thrown into a peculiar mold composed of space, time, and causation. It necessarily follows that law is possible only within this conditioned universe. Beyond it, there cannot be any law. So, all these laws are the expression only in this phenomenal existence. Just the example which you can give, first let us start with a very common example. So just say there's a prism and where the white light breaks into the spectrum. In the spectrum, we see the violet on the top, followed by indigo, blue, this green, yellow, orange, red. There is a sequence, there is a law which is finding expression as the projection. You cannot just change that sequence. The sequence has to follow that. But the moment you go to the other side of the prism, is there any change? No. The law is only in this phenomenon, this existence. Behind that, beyond that, transcending that, is the existence which is beyond law. The moment the so-called the reality finds expression as this phenomenal existence, then the question of space comes. Space is not out there. Space also is a projection of the mind. Just to say that is a star, you're watching a star at night, just you're looking up in the sky, watching a star, maybe through the telescope or whatever, with all the advanced this technology, you may be watching it better, and you come to this idea that it is thousands of light years away. But ultimately, what has happened? Have you really physically measured the distance? No. The distance, that huge distance, at last where it is being conceived, in the mind, in the dark corner of your brain through which the mind is finding expression. This brain is not the mind, but the mind works through the brain. And when it is working through the brain, when you are perceiving the distance far, far away, where it is perceived, in some minutely small center in your brain, which is actually projecting something as a stimulus has entered through your eyes, and it has got converted into some nervous impulse, which is activating this vision center, and which is projecting this space. Actually, what I have seen is never known. So this we see the 3D world, that itself is a matter of surprise, is an amazement, that how we can measure this depth. It's all happening within the mind. That for measuring the depth, always we don't use our hand or measuring tape. You will find very interesting thing, that how our mind is actually programmed to even distort when we are measuring depth. Suppose you take a stick, which is 12 feet stick, you just lay it down on the ground, it will look quite small. You just keep it upright. You will find anything when you keep it upright, it looks quite tall. You will be easily confused. You will be easily confused when you are keeping it erect and when you're keeping it flat. When you keep any long thing in flat, you will think it's very small. When you keep it just erect, immediately you will feel, oh, it is actually that tall. Why it happens? Because if we fall from a certain height, it can be fatal. So when anything is erect, for that, the brain will be saying, it's very tall. When it is flat, it is not a matter of danger. I can easily walk through it. So you will find that the brain is actually constantly perceiving the universe as per, not as per the reality, as per our convenience. When I have to jump from a height, the height is a vital factor. If it is a bit high, it can be very fatal. So there, I will be always conceiving that distance, the same distance, as a very great distance. But when it is just in the horizontal plane, you think it is not much, the same height. So you will find that constantly what is happening, it is the brain which is interpreting. Even the space, it is interpreted by the brain. It is not something outside which we are measuring. So Desha, the space is a creation of the mind, is a projection of the mind. Kala, the time is a projection of the mind. The causation is also a projection of the mind. Now I will give an example with which these ideas will become very easy. These examples, we are so lucky, we are in such an age, we can resort to this example. Even Swamiji couldn't have resorted to these examples. In those days, there was no multimedia, there were no DVD player. So now you can take if you take the universe as, say, something, it's not my example actually. It's something called this, a very famous physicist of MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. His name is Max Tegmark. He is giving a wonderful example by which we will understand that how we are having the idea of space, of some occurrence happening in time, and with the concept of time comes with the sequence of things is going to happen. So I will read out his word. I have just kept a note of it, and we'll find it so interesting. That life is like a movie, and space-time, which is projected by the cosmic mind, is like the DVD. There is nothing about the DVD itself that is changing in any way, even though there's all this drama unfolding in the movie. It's a wonderful idea. The space-time is like a DVD player. So you just take a DVD, there's no change in it. Everything is sequenced there. The moment I start playing it, the DVD is like the cosmic mind. When the conscious principle gets associated with it, it gets activated, it starts playing. Now all the sequence starts happening, but it was already fixed. It's already predestined. These ideas will come. We are just using this word. In the DVD, everything is planned. So the universe is also something like that. So this DVD itself, that is what is happening. There is nothing about the DVD itself that is changing in any way, even though there's all this drama unfolding in the movie. We have the illusion at any given moment that the past already happened and the future does not yet exist, and that things are changing. But all I am ever aware of is my brain state right now. The only reason I feel like I have a past is that my brain contains memories. It's a memory which gives you the sense of time. Otherwise, just you take when the DVD is playing, it's actually a sequence of still pictures, one after another coming. Nothing else. There is no cause and effect. In one picture, most probably the cause of some tragedy was, the so-called cause of some tragedy was played, and that was recorded, and that is there as the picture. In some other scene which follows, the consequence of the tragedy has been projected there. As such, they are all segregate pictures, nothing else. When I just turn the DVD on and it is playing with that sequence, now I interpret, oh, because of this has happened. But when the DVD was actually loaded, it was only the sequence of events that was loaded. The cause and effect is something, when I'm going through the movie, I am interpreting. So that's the idea even in science. Just in science, if we try to relate with the scientific theory, for us, the commoners, it becomes almost impossible to understand. That's why even the so-called scientists use this analogy, the way our this from the spiritual tradition, the analogy is used. We will find even in the science, they have started using analogy so that all these scientific discoveries, the concept of space-time, it becomes somehow comprehensible even to the commoners. So what a nice example here we find that our this so-called the famous physicist Max Tegmark is resorting to. Life is like a movie. When I am in a movie, I will suppose that I am in a role inside the movie. It's not you are watching the movie. Actually, the karma yoga is nothing to come out from the matrix to be the observer. If you have watched the movie Matrix, that's what is being shown there. That all the characters which has been projected, from the character point of view, they can never find out, they can never understand that they have been projected. It's only the one who is observing they can understand. So that's the thing which Swamiji also will be going gradually. That we generally make the mistake, but through this karma, we will be changing our lives. That's not going to happen. They are going to follow the sequence which is already predestined, already planned. You have to come out of it as a spectator and see the same sequence will follow. There we have no hand. It has already been sequenced. We have to be the observer and observe it and come out of this meshwork of Maya. So that's the thing Swamiji will be indicating. So first, let us try to understand with this example. Again, we just try to resort that the space-time, the so-called space-time, you just see when I am uploading the DVD. That in the DVD, there is no space. There is no question of space. There is no time as such. It is just the DVD. But it has been uploaded in such a way, the moment the current passes, you place the DVD in the DVD player, the current passes through it. The world of virtual reality is created, an artificial simulation. You see space there. So things are happening in time. And when the things are happening in time, that we find that because of that thing which has happened in the past, this is which is resulting in the present. That's what is happening. But everything is just a simulation. It has been simulated in the DVD, that when it is activated, it is now simulating as the world of virtual reality. You know, there are many songs on Mother Kali which says that she is mad. She is mad, that she is as if playing with the universe, that all the things which are happening, whether good or bad, it's because of the whims of Mother Kali. You will be so astonished that nowadays the language of science have started changing. This contemporary scientist of Max Tegmark, I don't remember the name exactly. In a joking way, what he's saying is something very interesting. He's saying there is the probability there are so many parallel universes. In some other parallel universe, a primary school girl has simulated the universe in which we are in, and most probably she has not simulated very perfectly. She won't get very good grades for it. So that's what the way we say that, as Swami Vivekananda told in front of Ramakrishna, that this world is devilish. I would have created a better world. The same words we find reflected in the language of the scientist, that most probably it is a simulation of some parallel world of that also. This is a small girl of that parallel universe where she is just a primary student, a primary school student, and playfully she has simulated this universe in which we are. And that was not a very perfect simulation, for that which is not going to get good grades. So that's what is being indicated. And what has been simulated, that is finding expression and being inside the matrix. We are interpreting it as cause and effect. What a wonderful this way it is being explained. Now we will find the words of Swamiji. In these examples, we could have never resorted to at the time of Swamiji. We should thank Swamiji that when we should just relate to Swamiji when he told that I welcome the development of science. The more it develops, the more the core of the Vedantic teachings will shine forth. And all the superstitions and the wrong beliefs, that will be washed away. And just see, yes, that's what is happening. We can understand so better these ideas with the help of taking the modern science as the analogy. So almost the same idea we find the Julian Barber, a British physicist, he describes time as a succession of pictures. Just in the DVD, you find there is actually nothing but succession of pictures. When we are seeing, we are interpreting it as cause and effect, but there actually is just succession of pictures. So that's what Julian Barber is saying, that the so-called time is a succession of pictures, a succession of snapshots, changing continuously one into another. It means one picture is followed by another. However, that does not mean one picture results in another. And to illustrate, just I myself was thinking, and just we can think of some another example. Just see, when we are numerically writing, say 41, 42, 43, 44. You're writing, yes, after 41 comes 42, after 42 comes 43, after 43 comes 44. But does it mean that the cause of 42 is 41? Or the effect of 42 is 43? No, they just come in sequence. The cause of 42 is not 41. It is a human mind. When they see that anything is coming in sequence, they interpret it as cause and effect. So now you will find what Swamiji is saying. That's why we thought that let us take some examples. Otherwise, this becomes very difficult to understand what Swamiji is saying. So 42 comes after 41, and it is followed by 43. But that does not mean that 42 is the cause of 41 and 43 is the effect. They just come in sequence. They're all sequence. It is our memory which is giving the sensation of time. So this time, space, causation. I think with this simple, it is a very difficult thing to understand if we really go to the terminology of science. It's very difficult. You have to be in the postgraduate level to understand it. Just we are taking some examples to somehow have an idea that space-time causation is nothing but the projection of the mind. So again, we just now go back to the Swamiji's word. Our universe is that portion of existence which is characterized by what the Sanskrit psychologists call Desha, Kala, Nimitta, or what is known to the European psychology as space, time, and causation. This universe is only a part of infinite existence, thrown into a peculiar mold composed of space, time, and causation. It necessarily follows that law is possibly only within the conditioned universe. Beyond it, there cannot be any law. When we speak of the universe, we only mean that portion of existence which is limited by our mind. The universe of the senses, which we can see, feel, touch, hear, think of, and imagine. This alone is under law, but beyond its existence cannot be subject to law, because causation does not extend beyond the law of our minds. Anything beyond the range of our mind or our senses is not bound by the law of causation, as there is no mental association of things in region beyond the senses, and no causation without association of ideas. It's the association of ideas which gives the sense of cause and effect. It is only when being or existence gets, see how he's now relating to the Vedantic idea. The being, the absolute existence, gets molded into name and form. So through the prism, it has got molded into this spectrum of this name and form, that it obeys the law of causation and is said to be under law, because all law has its essence in causation. So now I think that to a certain extent we can now relate that it is not something just of the Vedanta philosophy. You will find actually the science is almost speaking in the same language. And it is something which we cannot deny if we really try to decipher that's a mystery behind the existence. That's where at last we come at. So now the thing which we come to is something really very, very terrible. What is there? That's one. Let us first read the Swamiji's word, and then we will again go to the discussion. Therefore, we see at once that there cannot be any such thing as free will. The very words are a contradiction. Why they are a contradiction? The free will is a contradiction, Swamiji is saying, Because will is what we know, and everything that we know is within our universe. So after the mind has projected the universe, the will has came into existence, which is also under the laws of causation. So how can it be free? So even again with the modern, what you say, the science, with the modern psychology, there are so many experiments. We can easily understand there is nothing called free will. The very words are a contradiction, because will is what we know, and everything that we know is within our universe, and everything within our universe is molded by the conditions of space, time, and causation. Everything that we know or can possibly know must be subject to causation, and that which obeys the law of causation cannot be free. Do we really have free will? Just let us try. Swamiji has brought this topic, that everything as if is predestined. Let us try to understand with the modern psychological experiments, very famous experiments. Just the first experiment which we'll have a resort to, for explanation of this, is a very, very spooky experiment. What's that? A very simple experiment. It's this famous experiment of the Max Planck University. They say that everything in our mind is decided at least 7 seconds earlier than we think we have decided. If you keep the brain under the scan, you will find the decision has taken place at least 7 seconds earlier. What the simple experiment is, there's a switch. The moment you press, the time will be displayed at what time you have pressed the switch. Now, those who are conducting the experiment, they're just asking the pupil just to sit down and to decide to press the switch with any of the hand, either with the left hand or with the right hand. And the time will be displayed. That the moment they press the switch, the time will be displayed. So each and everyone comes, the moment they decide, they press the switch, the time is displayed, and is asked, have you pressed the switch the moment you just decided to press it? Well, yes. At the moment I decided to press it, then only I immediately have pressed it, and that's the time. So this is the time at which you decided to press the switch? Yes. Now, when the experiment was conducted, their brain were under the MMRI, it was under the scan. And in all the cases, invariably, it was found that at least 7 seconds early to that, so there was the activation of the brain, which speaks of the decision has already been taken. So this is a quite spooky, as if some ghost is there sitting within you, directing you. That's why it's called a very spooky experiment. I think I have decided now, but it was decided actually 7 seconds earlier. Now, previously, we never understood that why it is happening. Now, there are other sets of experiments in psychology to explain that why it happens. The next experiment is the split brain experiment, which will give an understanding that why it happens. And that will give us an understanding that why Swamiji is saying that nothing is called free will. Everything is predestined. So it will take some more time to just go through the discussion of the split brain experiment. So today we are almost in the verge of this time is over. We leave it here. We do not take, because these ideas, it needs some time to just, that we have to reflect on it, to think of it, because it's quite abstract. So we need not just proceed today with the split brain experiment. Just let us just have what you say, that overview of whatever we discussed, that there is law of causation, but that law of causation is not something outside there. It is the way our mind is interpreting the universe. And at the same time, as we are interpreting, it is not something which is just depending on my subjective way I interpret, because my mind is a part of the cosmic mind. And in the cosmic mind, the things have already been determined. and from which that cosmic mind is being simulated as this world of cause, this causation, space-time causation is a simulation of that. Or within that, we are as a matrix, we are within that. We think it to be real. And we are just working as per the virtual world of reality, believing in the law of causation, space-time causation. But the actual reality is behind that, is beyond it. So when we are within it, though we feel that everything there is a free will, actually it's all predestined. Then what's the way out? Then all the spiritual theory falls off. If everything is predestined, then I have nothing to do. So Swami Vivekananda is bringing us to this dilemma. And then he will just speak of karma yoga, that to bring out from this dilemma and say that karma yoga has its own place. In no way these yogas are something which we need not resort to by thinking if everything is predestined, what I have to do. They have also their place. So just with one example, we will just to have an idea that how, when we are within the matrix, how we can come out of the matrix. The common example which Sri Ramakrishna used to give, kata diye kata tola. That all the spiritual practice is not beyond Maya. It will take us beyond Maya. It is also within Maya. It is just like the thorn with which you prick out the thorn which has pierced you. This world, which I find to be so real, is a thorn which has pierced me. All these spiritual ideals which has been propounded by the realized soul is the other thorn. They're just a way. They're not the goal. They're the other thorn. They are also within Maya, with which I will prick out the thorn which has pierced me. At last, both won't be of use. I will throw them both and I will be free. So this is an example just to give an idea that this dilemma which Swamiji has brought us to is something apparent. He himself will take us, as the lecture proceeds, beyond this dilemma. So with this, we stop our discussion today. We will continue with our discussion on this lecture again on the next class. Thank you all. Namaskars.